Let's bring in independent testing expert Scott Smith and chemical exposure expert Stephen Petty. Gentlemen, thank you both so much for being here. Stephen, now that the judge has signed off on this class action settlement, what can you tell us about what you know about basically government officials and the parties just trying to make this go away?
Sure. I mean, I'm on a non-disclosure, so I can't tell you what I know from the case, but I did write a declaration on 3 topics of concern. One was a epidemiologist or toxicologist named Dr. Carson wrote that basically there's nothing to see here, that people in the future won't be harmed from these chemicals. I didn't see any documents from him, and nor do I know of any cumulative exposure that makes that case. I don't see how you can make that case. Secondly, the EPA has produced a lot of summary data, but we know from a variety of sources that they've really basically not been transparent about what they know. And last but not least, I was asked to look at independent whistleblowers data, Scott Smith, and because I've been disclosed in 400 cases on exposure assessment, I went through his data, and there was nothing that troubled me about the work that he did.
So, Scott, let's talk about, the EPA. They came out and said they hadn't detected contaminants at a level of concern. I think that was 3 days after the derailment. What's your finding? What do you think happened here? How toxic was the plume, and what impact did it have on the residents of East Palestine?
There's Dagan and Shauna, thanks for having me. And the EPA is front and center of how the multi-billion-dollar corporation, Norfolk Southern, and the plaintiffs' attorneys have hidden behind the EPA. And the EPA has altered data and manipulated data to fit the narrative, nothing to see here. For example, 52% of my testing says nothing to see here, which is good. 48% identifies the hot zones. I have an expression: you can't find what you don't look for. And, I intended to go twice to East Palestine, and as a matter of principle, I didn't give up, and they didn't refuse to test in the hot zone near the properties where I tested. And again, it's been reviewed by my scientific team. Dioxins, it's a unprecedented mixture of chemicals. I've been in over 60 disasters in 18 years, starting with my own. And it's like all disasters in one because of the mixtures on this: dioxins, plastics burning, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, and many more.
It's just so distressing that, Scott, why would the EPA do this? Why isn't the EPA protecting the people of East Palestine?
The EPA is completely a captured agency, and Dagan and Sean, I wish you could have been in that courtroom yesterday. The judge already had her decision basically written for her, and it was already predetermined. And I thought I was actually in Venezuela. I was there for the whole thing, and here's why. One of the residents upset rose and said the plaintiff's attorneys were lying, which they were. And you got to understand, we'd be having this discussion no matter Republican, Democrat appointed judge. The problem is the system work is designed not as it should. This means the interest, the court kept it of the multi-billion-dollar corporation and the plaintiffs, enriching the elite plaintiffs' attorneys. And there's going to be a lot more to discuss later on, because we have a lot more information to expose what's going on. And that judge stood up after she told a resident that obviously was upset. She had the U.S. Marshals say, put her on the pavement. I've seen a lot of court. And then the judge stood up and looked at all of us. Who wants to challenge me next? So, I mean, it's the system. It is really, and the judge banned cameras and audio and this transcript. So there's going to, it is incredible.
We're going to keep following the story. Scott and Stephen, thanks for being with us. We appreciate it.